Hey, what's up, everybody? Back again for another album review for another metal band. This is dealing with Poland's very own death metal band, Hate. The album is Tremendum, and long story short, not overly impressed, or let's just say overly excited after having listened to it. And that's after having listened to it like 3 or 4 times, because if I can't get into an album or it seems a bit underwhelming at first, I'll give it a few listens before I go and make a review about it, because first impressions are sometimes misleading. You may get kind of hyped about something and realize after another few listens that it's not as good as you thought it was initially, or that it actually is better because it took a while for the music to sink in. In this case, I just haven't really gotten into it enough to give it a really glowing review. And I like Hate. I mean, even though everyone tries to dismiss them as being like a Behemoth clone, I really don't see that. I mean, there's some similarities in the vocals eventually. Some of this, I mean, the Polish death metal scene has its own unique style, and that may just because of the location of where a lot of the music was spawned. It's not, I mean, the Bay Area thrash bands were playing a certain thrash style, not identical, but there are similarities. So I think it's kind of disingenuous to just dismiss them as a copycat, because you can, I mean, other than like the vocals, which Nurgle actually I think uses more dynamics, at least, or seems to, than Adam, or ATF Sinner. That's his full stage name, Adam the First Sinner. I'll just refer to him as Sinner for now, since it gets annoying repeating certain stage names. It's like, I get the whole theatrical aspect of it, but anyway. And yeah, that's actually one thing, I guess, if I wanted to start at critiques, is that the vocals are not monotone, but the dynamic range, and the creative aspect of the vocals is kind of non-existent. It's pretty much just one speed throughout most of it, which is fine if it fits the music. The music itself is strong enough that it can you can ignore something like that. But it's weird because this isn't the case, because the musical style has really shifted. I mean, not like dramatically, but it is way more in the black metal field. Compared to more of a thrashy kind of Black and Death type style that we've seen on previous albums by Hate. So yes, a lot more just that one note, shredded, scale, riffs that creating that atmosphere that the Norwegian black metal scene is known for. Just using certain combinations of notes in order and playing them one at a time, or sometimes shredding like a chord or something like that. But it's, to give it that kind of grim, or ugly kind of harshness to it. And that seems to be like where the majority of the guitar playing is, as far as the riffs go, is moved into, as the black metal field. Before, we had a lot more, not catchy or a little bit more thrashy, or kind of rhythms, licks and whatnot that more kind of headbanging type stuff fit in along with more of the single note picking black metal stylings too. Where this, it's almost it's like I said, it's almost just totally in the way more in the black metal camp. I mean, it doesn't sound like a knockoff of a generic black metal or whatever, but like I said, if you threw in a vocalist from a well-known black metal band into the mix with this style, you might not even realize that it's Hate, to be honest, unless you're like, especially since I think this is a whole new lineup as well. because I think after Crusade Zero, they Adam basically split with the other band members and is now with a whole new group. So that, I mean, you definitely can tell the stylistic change may have something to do with that. The drumming is a little bit different. Like I said, the overall song structure is a little bit different, but and it's you know, and that necessarily in itself isn't bad. It's just that the final product of all the songs, you know, as a whole, it just doesn't overwhelm me personally, as far as I don't see anything really standing out enough to want to revisit necessarily. Like the first 3 tracks are just kind of like, you know, nothing's going on. It's just, you know, the first one's interesting because it's got kind of like a introduction, kind of a military drum march type part going along with the guitar, and so it's kind of cool in that way. But I mean, you really don't get till like 4th or 5th track until it starts to actually show some promise. And but I mean, it's only a 9-track album. You've got a deluxe edition, which gives you a bonus track and a different version of the first track. But other than that, it's just 9 tracks. And yeah, like I said, you're getting almost into the halfway point before you can even start really finding anything to sink your teeth into that doesn't just come across as kind of been there, done that. And so, like I said, yeah, well, and going back to the vocals, I mean, it's just a straight up death metal vocal style. You know, something more along the lines, you know, like you'd expect from, you know, like David Vincent or something. Not sounding the same, but you know that, you know, pretty much just there's not a lot of, you know, variety and, like I said, in dynamics and whatnot, which could have made things a lot more interesting if Adam had really you know, even if he went into more black metal style raspiness and whatnot, and if he'd been more adventurous with the vocal style, it would have helped a lot, or, you know, or had shared vocals with another member of the band and done it that way. Because it's like I said, you've got a pretty much straightforward death metal vocal style, clean, not, you know, clean in the manner that you can understand what he's saying, but, you know, not clean vocals, but, you know, you have death metal or extreme metal vocals where you have no clue what the hell the singer's even saying, but it's brutal, so it gets a pass. And then you have those, you know, kind of like a Mike Ackerfeld from Opeth, and you know, and also in the side projects with Bloodbath, you know, his vocals are brutal as hell, but you can understand what he's saying. So you get that, but then you throw it on top of a far more black metal-ish style album, and it doesn't complement each other all that much necessarily. And another thing to be said is that, as Adam has said in the past, you know, the music, the message of the band, or as far as the philosophical message or the spiritual message, according to him, is far more important than the music in itself. So I'm sure there's quite a bit of creative and you know, intellectual depth in the lyrics, you know, because that's where, I mean, all these albums seem to have I'm sure this one has thematic of some sort. I know Solar Flesh was a thematic concept album or whatnot, so I'm sure there's plenty to delve into inside of the lyrics, but you know, that shouldn't be the main. I don't think the lyrics should be the main selling point of an album, you know, regardless of whether you're trying to introduce a philosophical or a cult or spiritual or political ideology or message or whatever. Because, you know, the music is what what people are there for. You know, that should always come first, as far as I'm concerned, unless you're doing, you know, something that's like a spoken word type thing where you have some maybe acoustic accompaniments on guitar or something, but the focus is only on the vocals and the lyrics. But that's not the case here. This is an extreme metal band. The music is paramount. So that being that as it may, you know, I haven't really delved into the lyrics and the symbolism and anything that's in there. So that may be some richness in there as far as from a creative standpoint, but that's not going to, even if it was completely brilliant, it's not going to salvage the overall kind of ho-hum impression I got of the album as a whole. So, I mean, some people may completely disagree with this and may think it's, amazing just because it's intense. I mean, the like a lot of these bands, I mean, obviously going to get an A for intensity and, and passion and what, and they're in the delivery of the songs and in the performance and the vocals and everything, obviously. So it's not like, it's like a phoned in kind of commercial hack job or anything. That's not the case, but like I said, when I'm listening to, like just like the last, the God Dethroned album I just reviewed, or the Lockup album, that I reviewed, or even the Pirate Maze album, I mean, there's something there in these albums that makes me want to come back and revisit the songs for whatever reasons. It's, that has something to it, even, or the Immolation album, Atonement. There's something there that is, catches your attention immediately and then brings you in for repeat visits. This is not really the case with this album, with Tremendum, as far as I'm concerned. Other than maybe revisiting one or two tracks, maybe just as a refresher to maybe see if I can, still have some optimism as far as being able to crack the outside and get into the center where the good stuff's at. As far as that would be a motivation for re-listening some of the songs, but overall, yeah, it's just kind of bland. And coming from a band that have put out, especially their last half dozen albums, they've shown, Adam and his various musical hired guns have shown that they're capable of writing some really solid, amazing music. So maybe this was just an experiment, a decision to take things in a certain direction for whatever reason. And maybe that's the intent that the album had, the intent that it was supposed to have. But I'm not going to be, recommending this, as a must-have, kind of album like I am with like the God Dethroned album. I would say that's a must-have for anybody that's really into metal, as long as you aren't you don't have an issue with the more gruff, harsh, vocal stylings, which some people is a big turnoff to, and they never get into extreme metal because they can't get past the vocals, which is a shame. But yeah, I'm far more likely to recommend, like God Dethroned's latest album than I am this one. If you had to choose, you only could buy one, or the newer Immolation album. That's also superior to this, I think, as a whole. But like I said, it's subjective. We each have our own opinions. I base this on basically what else is out there right now, comparing it also to previous content in Hate's discography. I'm more likely to skip this and go back to a previous album because I just don't really care for it all that much. But like I said, don't just take my word for it. Give it a fair shot. It may be that it's just a matter of taste. But yeah, expect to there be a far more black metal guitar styling approach to the overall album than what we've at least seen previously in the past handful of albums. So yeah, that's about it. Danzig's new album is out, Black Laden Crown, I believe it's called. I've started listening to it a little bit. I'll give it another listen or so before I come up with my final opinions on it and do a review for it as well. So yeah, looks like there's quite a bit of good stuff coming down the road, little by little. So, and I also did hear a new track off of the next upcoming Morbid Angel album, which actually I guess Steve Tucker, is back as the front man of the band. So, and David Vincent and Tim Young are now touring under the band name I Am Morbid, which is basically, it looks like David Vincent is playing his credited songs, and then like Trey is playing and those guys are playing all the stuff that Steve Tucker was on. Something like that, more drama, that who knows. But yeah, I'm glad David Vincent isn't in Morbid Angel anymore, because yeah, he totally, I think it was his influence that made that last studio album a complete piece of crap. So yeah, I think Warped is the track that they played live in Florida at one of the clubs, and it sounds like it's heading in the right direction, at least, That's good. Anything, I'll take anything, that, that resembles Old Morbid Angel, even if there is some experimentation. So yeah, I'm not sure when that'll be released. It's supposed to be this year, but anything is going to be better than Elude Divinum Insanus, because that one was a pile of shit. But anyway, yeah, folks, I'll talk to you later with the next review. Probably going to be the new Danzig album. Take it easy.